Hi, didn't mean to ignore you. Hi.
No, you're great.
You're amazing.
Hey, George. Good
I
morning.
appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
All right, fine. Hi.
No, yeah. Hi, good morning.
I'm Sam. Nice to
Hey,
meet you.
Sam. Josh.
Right. Yes. Yes. I am Latina, and I'm going to say Mario.
Guevara or Guevara? Okay, see, that's what I'm glad.
How are you? Thank you for coming.
Okay.
I guess we're like,
I'm going to try to get...
can I do money? No. Why not? I'm joking.
You have.
Really, Sam?
She has.
Do you really?
Zero.
When needed and as appropriate, Marcus. I feel like I should have everyone on the steps. Like everyone, including staff, should be on the steps. Right? I feel like everyone, including staff, should be on the steps with us.
You should have as many folks on the steps as possible.
Joe, you guys should stand on the steps with us.
They're not comfortable with this.
Have you seen me? You gotta be in front. No, you can be right there. It's great.
So join it. Maybe join me right here on this side. Yeah, sorry, you forgot about that.
I'll get taller. Hi, I'm Noah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Sam,
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, no, least we could do. Literally, least we could do.
So almost ready. We'll give it a couple minutes. Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. My name is Senator Josh McLaurin. I'm here today with a group of concerned journalists, activists, organizers about the case of Mario Guevara. Mario Guevara is a journalist who is being held in Folkston, Georgia in ICE detention. We've been talking a lot about ICE recently in this country. Trump just passed a budget bill that expanded ICE's funding by $75 billion, tripling its annual budget and making its annual budget larger than that of the FBI and the federal prison system. ICE is poised to become the largest domestic police force and most funded domestic police force in the United States. And what this means for communities, particularly immigrant communities, is fear. Fear that family or friends will be abducted, snatched up, disappeared, taken to remote facilities, windowless rooms, with little contact in some cases with the outside world, with no guarantee of due process and no accountability for, in some cases, the plainclothes officers who come and abduct these folks off of our streets and our communities, from businesses, from schools. Mario Guevara is a journalist, and so his detention raises even bigger questions about civil rights, constitutional rights, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. And in this country, as we know, with our tradition of the freedom of speech and press, it isn't about whether you agree with someone's opinions, the substance of their reporting. It's about their right to collect information and disseminate that information to communities who rely on it to make deliberative, informed decisions about their democracy. And Mario Guevara is a part of that esteemed centuries-long tradition. It's for that reason that we assemble here today in support of his due process. His charges have been dropped in the jurisdictions where they were brought. He has now been in ICE detention for a month without recourse and without any guarantee that his constitutional rights, a legal resident of the United States, will be protected. I'm honored now to invite one of several organizations here today. The organizations here today include the ACLU of Georgia, the Georgia First Amendment Foundation, Asian Americans Advancing Justice. But this press conference is also sponsored by brought to you by the Committee to Protect Journalists, a worldwide organization that has been at the forefront of protecting freedom of the press internationally. It's my honor to introduce from CPJ the Director of the Americas, Jose Zamora, who can explain in a little more detail who you're going to hear from today and the type of message that we're trying to get out. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator McLaurin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Zamora. I represent the Committee to Protect Journalists, an organization that promotes freedom of the press around the world and defends the right of journalists to report the news safely and without reprisal. It is deeply troubling that we are here today in the United States holding a press conference about an imprisoned journalist for doing his job. Mario Guevara, a respected Emmy Award-winning reporter who has covered immigration issues for over 2 decades, was arrested while engaging in a constitutionally protected activity under the First Amendment. The charges were dropped, yet he remains detained by ICE. Let's be clear, Mario is being punished for his journalism. He is now the only journalist in prison in the US in direct retaliation for his reporting. Seamos claros, Mario está siendo castigado por su labor periodística. Es ahora el único periodista encarcelado en Estados Unidos en represalia directa por hacer su trabajo informativo. This is a blatant attack on press freedom, on the First Amendment, and on the right of communities, especially immigrant communities, to be informed. These communities rely on voices like Mario's to help make sense of the world around them. Today, we come together to express and denounce this abuse. We thank our partners, our speakers, and each one of you for being here today, because defending press freedom anywhere, especially here at our home, is essential to defending democracy everywhere. Mario should have never been arrested. He must be freed and reunited with his family and his community. To begin, we'll hear more about Mario's case from Giovanni Diaz, who is leading his legal defense. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Giovanni Diaz. I'm one of the founding partners of the law firm Diaz and Gaeta Law. My law partner, Zachary Gaeta, is also here. We form kind of the spear of the legal team that's working hard to get Mario released. So just to give you a little bit of background about Mario's case, and I know you all have read a lot of articles and there's a lot of information out there, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. He was arrested on June 14th, and because, although he's not a legal permanent resident, he is legally allowed to remain here in the United States and his authorization to work and a Social Security card and a driver's license, ICE placed a hold on him. And unfortunately, nowadays, the administration has made it perfectly clear that anybody who's not a legal permanent resident, at least, or a citizen, even if they've been given certain protections and they've been allowed to remain in the United States legally, and the government has openly stated in court records that they're not looking to remove that individual from the United States, ICE has decided that these people are targets as well, regardless of the crime they commit. So even when minor traffic violations or anything that they're accused of, and just the accusal, just being arrested is enough, ICE can place, and did in this case, place an ICE hold on Mario. Once the ICE hold is placed, there's very little legally that you can do to remove an ICE hold. And you just have to see how the jurisdictions play out. Now, there's limits to the ICE hold. Very quickly, we worked to get him a signature bond. My law partner went to magistrate court a few times, and by the beginning of the week, we were able to get him signature bonds. Those signature bonds were signed, and he was quickly taken to ICE custody. It's very interesting the way he was routed to ICE custody. Instead of going directly to the 180 Ted Turner office, the main Atlanta field office, he was escorted directly to the Folkestone Detention Center. Obviously, a lot of people have been speculating as to why this is done. We really don't know why. It's unique, it's unusual, but it was done. We worked very quickly to contact, and we weren't the only ones. Many concerned members of the community, members of the media, reached out to DeKalb County, and I think the pressure DeKalb County had, how relentless Attorney Zach was in working with DeKalb County and contacting them and visiting them, they eventually decided to do the right thing. The prosecutors decided to do the right thing and dismiss the charges. But by that time, it was a bit late. By that time, the ICE hold was hit. He was already transferred to ICE custody, and we were already quickly working to prepare and file a bond motion. Now, a bond motion is the first thing that one does in order to get somebody released. Mario is clearly eligible for bond. Mario has no criminal history in the United States. Mario has been here for 20 plus years. Mario is clearly eligible for adjustment of status through a petition filed from his immediate relative child. So we were very, very confident with everything we knew about Mario and the facts of the case that we would get bond. On July 1st, the bond hearing was set for July 4th. We attended, his family attended. We had a more contentious bond hearing than we expected to have, but the judge sided with us and he granted Mario a bond in the amount of $7,500. And in the immigration world, that's not too high of a bond. That's kind of usual. The bonds have incredible ranges, and there are so many factors that go into what the range or the amount of bond set by the judge. But these judges have amazing and almost unfettered discretion in granting bond and whatever amount they see fit. But we got the bond. The family was happy, and we were about to go post it. So up to that point, everything that we expected to happen had happened. Mario's family went to post the bond, and we began to see what things that we've seen before, which are sort of these obstructionist type tactics where maybe the bond posting didn't go through, they cite administrative issues. We tried to do it electronically, the family tried to do it electronically. The next step is go in person. They went in person. They showed up in person and they told them, we're not going to accept the bond. And I think I'm going to paraphrase what the ICE officer told my client's family, but they stated that although a judge grants a bond, they have the discretion to not allow it to be posted. Instead of explaining to the client that there was a stay petition that had been filed with the BIA, instead of explaining to them what happened, instead of correctly serving their attorneys, that was the message that they gave. So immediately that same day, our senior associate, Jessica Calms, went straight up to the ICE office and told them we need information. By that time, they had already confirmed to us that he was being transferred to Gwinnett. Now, for those of you that don't know, very quickly after being detained from DeKalb, he was hit with warrants from Gwinnett County. This is unusual in that these warrants were for traffic violations and incidences that allegedly happened a month or more before the day the warrants were sworn out. That in itself is very unique. The timing of it is very concerning. They hit him with these warrants after he was detained by DeKalb. So we had those warrants, so it isn't surprising, and we had prepared the family that because he had open warrants, there was a possibility that Gwinnett would come and pick him up from ICE custody. We've had cases in the past where clients win their cases, but because they have open warrants, those jurisdictions have the right and do pick up the individual. But sometimes they don't. But in Mario's case, they did, and they transferred him over to Gwinnett custody. Once he got to Gwinnett custody, Zach, my law partner, and some of the other attorneys at my firm, we worked pretty hard to reach out. They weren't as responsive as DeKalb County, to say the least, but luckily, I think with the pressure of the community and with Zach's pressure again, those charges were ultimately dismissed. So thankfully, those were dismissed, and I think the statement from the prosecutors that they couldn't prosecute that case, just to keep it as brief as possible. Mario, we found out later through filings from the government that they did file a stay, and they appealed the bond decision. Now, appealing the bond decision isn't unusual. ICE nowadays, all the discretion that attorneys generally have as prosecutors has been stripped from them, and they basically aren't even allowed to agree with us of what day of the week it is. So what they do is they filed the appeal. Again, we were prepared for that, but we didn't think they'd file the stay. The stay was a surprise. And I think the stay was a very firm reminder and a confirmation to us that they wanted to treat Mario very differently than other detained individuals. So we've responded, we filed a motion to lift the stay. We've obviously filed a response, a motion for summary affirmance. We're asking the Board of Immigration Appeals to do the right thing. We're asking them to lift the stay. And we're confident, based on the fact that the law is very much on our side, that we will ultimately get the stay lifted and that we will ultimately win the appeal. Just a brief lesson on the law. The Board of Immigration Appeals traditionally has given immigration judges a ton of discretion. I don't want to say unfettered, but a lot of discretion in making bond decisions. And most decisions from the Board of Immigration Appeals on bond, specifically on the issue of bond, are affirmed. So we're confident, based on the overwhelming evidence that favors my client, that Mario will be allowed to post his bond once we prevail at the Board of Immigration Appeals. We've also consulted with partners. We've consulted with the other attorneys in my office. And if the decision goes anywhere else, we feel that the government is acting in bad faith, and we will pursue litigation. Thank you. Next, we'd like Mario's daughter to speak. Catherine?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. My name is Catherine, and I'm Mario Guevara's daughter. I'm here today as a daughter, yes, but also as someone who watched her dad spend his life trying to help others. My father is a reporter. He chased stories that mattered, stories that told the truth about immigration, about injustice, about people who usually go ignored. He's always believed that journalism was a form of service. He didn't do it for recognition. For more than 20 years, I have witnessed his unwavering dedication and selfless commitment to serving the Hispanic community. A lot of people he helped were just trying to survive in this country. He not only informed the community, but also gave them vital connections and a sense of hope. That's the kind of journalist that he is, and that's the kind of person that he is. Since he's been detained, our family has felt an emptiness that we cannot begin to fill. My mom is exhausted. My brothers and I feel like we're stuck in a nightmare. This process has been extremely complicated and difficult every step of the way. We don't know what to tell people when they ask where he is. We don't know how to explain how something like this could happen. How is this even possible? There are many fears tied to the uncertainty of what lies ahead for my dad. But more than fear, I feel anger. Because this should not be happening. My dad did nothing wrong. He was arrested while wearing a press badge. He was live streaming. He wasn't in the way. He wasn't breaking any law. He was doing his job. And now, with every day that passes, we're losing time we'll never get back. The pain we feel is indescribable. Though I know so many others in the same situation understand, they understand it all too well. I'm deeply disappointed with this country. This is not just about one journalist. This is about what kind of country we want to be. If a government can punish a reporter for doing his job, what message does that send? What protections are left for the rest of us? To those listening, please don't let this be forgotten. Don't let my dad become another name on the list. He's more than that. He's the most hardworking man that I know. A man whose dedication and sacrifices have shaped not only my life, but the lives of everyone around him. He belongs home with us, and we won't stop fighting until he is. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Oscar, and I'm Mario Guevara's son. I'm here today because my dad can't be. I'm here because the person who's always been the strongest in our family, the one we look to for answers, for calm, for strength, is now the one locked in a detention center. My father is a journalist, but to me, he's just my dad. He's the guy who drove me to school, worked long hours, and still found time to ask how I was doing. He's the one who made sacrifices most people never saw. He worked evenings and weekends. He missed holidays, sometimes to cover stories. But he did it because he believed that his work made a difference. When I was 17, I had to have brain surgery. My dad was there by my side and would cheer me up when I was feeling down. As part of my recovery, he put a camera in my hands and helped me become a young photojournalist. He has always known how to bring a smile to my face. Growing up, I didn't always understand why my dad was so obsessed with his work, or why'd he jump up and leave dinner to chase down a story. But now I do. He was trying to tell the truth. He was trying to protect people, especially those without a voice. His work wasn't just a job, it was a calling. And now he's being punished for answering that call. Since he's been locked up, we haven't been okay. My family feels like we're living in limbo. My dad has been a legal resident of the U.S. for more than 20 years. He pays taxes. He's followed the law. He raised a family here. And yet, despite having no charges against him, he's sitting in a cell as if he's a threat. All because he was doing his job. We were raised to believe that in this country, freedom of speech mattered, that journalism mattered, that hard work and honesty meant something. But none of that seems to matter right now. I want to say to those in power, you are not just locking up a journalist. You are locking up a father, a husband, a man who spent his life giving back. And we are here, his family, trying to make you see him. My sister and I could go on. These short remarks don't do my father justice. Please, let him go. Let him go home. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're about 20 minutes in, and you're all still here, so that's wonderful. I'm Nora Benavidez, and I thought a lot about how I was going to come here today, whether it's through my role with the Georgia First Amendment Foundation, where we protect open government and free speech in Georgia. I thought a little bit about coming here given my role with Free Press, which is a national nonprofit where we fight for free, equitable, and open connection online and offline. I thought about coming here as a Latina who has been deeply personally appalled by the indignity and the dehumanization over the last several months of people who look like me. or honestly, as a civil rights attorney who has known Mario Guevara for many years. I've appreciated his presence, his, shall we say, unique coverage at times in the community. But the issues that bring me, and I believe all of us here today, in support of Mario Guevara, really are us coming together in our most fundamental capacity, troubled by where we are headed, and the way that Mario Guevara's case feels emblematic of the disturbing path that the United States is on. Mario Guevara is not a threat to society, as the government would have us believe. Just like others throughout the country that are being targeted for their speech and for their conduct, like students from Columbia or Georgetown or Tufts, some of whom, like Mahmoud Khalil, were detained for over 3 months for exercising their free speech rights, condemning what is happening in Gaza. These students were never threats to our society. Just like Lauren Tomasi, the journalist who was hit with rubber bullets while she was covering protests in Los Angeles, and other journalists that were attacked with tear gas in Los Angeles just for doing their job, just for exposing the facts, laying witness to dissent against an increasingly authoritarian administration. Again, these journalists were never a threat to our society. And in fact, each of these examples show us people exposing a narrative that those in power do not want exposed. None of these instances present a threat to the United States. They're examples of the very reason we have a First Amendment and a Constitution at all. But if people like Mario Guevara are somehow cast as dangerous, I think that says more about the kind of nation we are becoming than it does about who Mr. Guevara is. It says that this country is turning its back on core American principles, principles our founders believed essential to prevent consolidation and abuse of power by a small few. Those founding fathers knew that freedom of the press, our freedom to speak, listen, think, and assemble would be essential bulwarks against overreach of government power. So if the exercise of those rights is now penalized, like it is with Mario Guevara, simply because those in power dislike the message or the messenger, that means that our basic freedoms are not free. They have become privileges doled out for good behavior if those in power allow it. I feel like we're in this really weird moment. I think about what John Lewis would think if he were here with us, because I'm sure that he would be standing behind us. I think about this being the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr., of the civil rights movement, no less, a movement that clung to and succeeded in part because of people's expression and protest rights. So let's be clear today, because it is an honor that you are all here. Thank you to Senator McLaurin for hosting this. We are here today in diversity, politics, identity, creed, belief, because we are calling for the immediate release of Mario Guevara. He has no criminal charges against him. He's in this country legally. He was arrested while doing a constitutionally protected activity. But albeit that is one that the Trump administration dislikes. And this is the environment that the administration has created. Trump himself has disallowed journalists from the White House when he dislikes their coverage. Congress has gutted millions and millions and millions of dollars for public media just last week, and instead is giving over $170 billion to law enforcement and border police. And even in our corporate media realm, companies like CBS are discontinuing programming like the Stephen Colbert Show because he spoke critically of the way that CBS capitulated to Donald Trump. We're living in a climate of fear and retribution, and it is a step of courage, it is a sign of courage when Mario Guevara's children come forward, risking themselves, their own safety, to describe what they have lived through. Our community ties are weakening, truth is undermined as the bedrock of our democracy, and I believe that Mr. Guevara's case is really just the tip of the spear. So in pushing back today, we are not just calling for Mr. Guevara's immediate release, because the very circumstances under which we are here, more than 38 days into his disturbing detention, these are daily reminders of the ways that other people may think twice about filming the police. They may think twice about protesting. And any one of you covering this today might even think twice about reporting on ICE. And that is the point. Mario Guevara's detention sends a chilling message to anyone who might want to exercise their rights. And it is a rejection of the very premise this country was founded on, to give people agency, dignity, autonomy, and freedom to challenge those in power. I look at the pattern, of what is happening, people who are targeted for their speech, then detained for their speech, and I worry that Mr. Guevara may not be the last journalist that we see targeted like this. And so I think it makes it all the more important, probably essential, that all of us, everyday people, journalists, lawyers, lawmakers standing behind us, and other leaders stand up for something better. This is beyond politics, it's beyond time period, it's beyond Atlanta. And if it's Mario Guevara's detention today, it may be one of ours tomorrow. So thank you all so much for coming, for giving coverage and airtime to this critical case and this critical issue. I'm now honored to introduce my colleague from the ACLU of Georgia, Andres Lopez Delgado. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Andres Lopez Delgado, and I'm a senior staff attorney at the ACLU of Georgia and the son of Puerto Rican migrants. I want to begin by thanking Senator McLaurin, Free Press, the Committee to Protect Journalists, the Georgia First Amendment Foundation, Mario's legal team, and Mario's family for the opportunity to speak today. The ACLU of Georgia is an organization that champions the right of all Georgians to exercise their constitutional rights. Those rights include the right to free speech, which is guaranteed under both the federal Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Georgia. We have a long history of standing up for free speech, even when that speech is unpopular, and especially when it results in government retaliation. So I want to take the opportunity today to reaffirm some basic principles of free speech, because it feels like we're living in a time and in a place where those rights and principles very much need affirming. First and foremost, I want to say that the protections of the First Amendment extend to everyone, regardless of citizenship status. And those rights include the right to gather and publish information about government activity, the right to record public officials doing their jobs in public places, the right to criticize government action and to dissent from government action, and the First Amendment safeguards us from government retaliation for engaging in protected free speech and speech-related activities. For the reasons described eloquently by the other speakers here today, which I will not repeat in the interest of being brief, the ACLU of Georgia is deeply concerned about Mario's case and what it means about where we're headed as a state and as a country. Journalists should not have to be concerned that they will face deportation or other retaliation when they are just trying to do their jobs, reporting on matters of grave and deep public concern. Georgians rely on a free press to know what is happening in our communities. We need to know that journalists are protected when they are working to bring the public critical information, and that nobody will be punished for shedding light on government action. The ACLU of Georgia condemns this attack on the First Amendment and is committed to protecting freedom of speech and freedom of the press in the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Jacobson, and I lead the U.S. program at the Committee to Protect Journalists. I want to begin by acknowledging something that might seem obvious, but bears repeating. It is deeply unsettling that we are gathered here today holding a press conference about the ongoing imprisonment of a journalist in the United States, Mario Guevara. But these are not normal times. I represent CPJ, a global nonprofit that defends press freedom and the rights of journalists worldwide. Since 1992, we have tracked case by case every journalist killed and imprisoned in retaliation for their work around the world. For most of that time, the United States was rarely mentioned. It was the exception, not the rule, a country where, despite its flaws, journalists could generally do their jobs without fear of government reprisal. This is no longer the case. We've seen a steady rise in domestic threats to press freedom legal harassment, physical attacks, relentless online abuse. And now, Guevara's case stands as one of the clearest examples of that erosion. Mario Guevara remains the only journalist in the US who was in prison following an arrest related to his reporting. It bears repeating and thinking on that. You've already heard the specifics from his family, his attorney, from lawyers and civil society organizations. And yes, the back and forth between jails, the dismissed charges, the misdemeanors, the ICE custody, it can sound complicated. But let us be clear, the principles at the core of this case are straightforward. Guevara was engaging in protected First Amendment activity at the time of his arrest. He had been legally in the United States for 2 decades, and now he has been behind bars for 38 days. The initial charges against him, all misdemeanors, were dropped. He should be free. Instead, the government has argued that Guevara was a danger to society and should be denied bond because of his reporting activity, including live streaming, which I assume some of you are doing here today. This line of reasoning, therefore, should be cause for alarm. Guevara, like so many other reporters, had regularly used live streaming as a way to tell the story of what was happening in his community. His work covered everything, from daily issues to life-altering immigration raids, and informed hundreds of thousands of people who have subscribed to his programming across social media platforms. His absence has left a painful silence in coverage and for his family, and comes at a time when risks facing journalists in the United States continue to build. While we gathered here today in the Georgia State House, this case has resonance far beyond the state capitol. Guevara's ongoing detention sends a clear, chilling message to reporters, especially those in this country who are not U.S. citizens, that they too could very well find themselves at risk in the same way Mario has. If that can happen to Guevara, a respected journalist, again, who legally resides here and has been for the past 20 years, who could be next? It is vital that Guevara be released without delay. Thank you.
That concludes our formal program. I just want to thank the Committee to Protect Journalists and all the groups that are represented here today, along with my colleagues from the House and the Senate who have shown support, political will at the state level to protect against this type of abuse in the future. At this time, we will be open to any questions from the media.
Well, I mean, we've been in contact with him often, between me, my law partner, and his family, and he's doing well. For those of you that know Mario, most of you do, you know that he's an incredibly positive person. He leans on his faith and his family, and he continues to do that while in detention. But I think there's certain things that have been shaken to his core. He's been shaken to his core because a country that he continues to love, a country that he continues to believe in the institutions, he's having a crisis of conscience, I guess. I think he's dealing with that, and also he's by himself. And for another long list of things that are suspicious and concerning in this case is that he's being detained essentially in isolation. Now, the reason that ICE has cited to us and to anybody else has asked is for his safety. He is a public figure. As we all know, there were elements about his personality that were controversial. His style was controversial. So, I mean, there is a little bit of it's plausible that that's the reason why they're doing it, but they're doing it just about everywhere he goes, except one instance where they didn't, and they put him in population. And that wears on you. That wears on any individual. Based on the actions from the government from the beginning, the first statement that they made where they lied about my client's immigration history, and they continue to lie even in pleadings that they filed to the Board of Immigration Appeals. I think it's an easy assumption to make that they're doing this not only to protect him, but to also retaliate against him and wear him down. He's had multiple conversations with ICE officers, and they feel the need to remind him on multiple occasions that he's going to be there for a while if he fights his case. So, I've argued asylum cases for 13 years. People who've been persecuted in their countries, this is evidence of persecution, plain and simple. But with all that said, he is still smiling, he's in good spirits, and he's in it for the fight, and so are we. Bueno, hay varias preguntas en esas preguntas, perdón. La pregunta, ¿cuáles son los próximos pasos? Yo creo que los próximos pasos es, por el momento, tenemos dos cosas pendientes en la Corte de Apelación. Tenemos el procedimiento de fianza y tenemos el procedimiento de, suena feo, ¿verdad?, el caso de deportación, el caso de la Corte de Inmigración, que se cerró en el 2012 y que todavía está cerrado administrativamente, pero el gobierno ya presentó una petición para reabrirlo. Nosotros ya presentamos una petición que lo que queremos que trasladen ese caso de la Corte de Apelación de nuevo a la Corte para pelear su residencia, porque él claramente califica por la residencia. Ellos se están oponiendo, presentaron un documento que no están de acuerdo con eso, aunque es algo sencillo y claramente la ley está con nosotros. Por eso, por el momento, yo creo que la parte que nos desespera a nosotros, que le desespera a la familia, es que le tenemos que dar a la Corte de Apelación, desafortunadamente, la oportunidad de decidir. Pedimos ya que levanten ese stay, ¿verdad?, esa congelación, ¿verdad?, del orden de fianza del juez. También pedimos que desestimen o que cierren o que cierren completamente el caso de apelación y que le dé la oportunidad de pagar esa fianza a que le dieron. Por eso, por el momento, yo creo que le tenemos que dar a la Corte de Apelación la oportunidad de hacer lo correcto. Pero estamos colectando evidencias, ¿verdad? Es bien claro del principio del caso que se ha comportado el gobierno de una manera fea. Okay. Del principio han mentido y no le importa hablar de la verdad, ni quieren revisar el expediente de mi propio cliente. Lo que me sorprende, y la parte también que me sorprende, son abogados que conozco, ¿verdad? Abogados fiscales que yo conozco de muchos años y la verdad no le importa. Han decidido que se van a oponer y se van a oponer de una manera para complicar el proceso. Lo bueno es que, y repito, yo creo que la ley está con nosotros, está con Mario. Mario claramente califica por la fianza que le dieron, Mario claramente califica por la residencia y lo vamos a lograr. Desafortunadamente están jugando sucio y eso es la realidad. La otra cosa que tenemos ya preparado y listo, por si acaso, es la posibilidad de una demanda en la Corte Federal. Pero cada caso es único y lo que tenemos que estar seguros es que el caso está listo para eso, porque no queremos presentar algo que bien rápido pierde, ¿okay? O desestiman porque no le hemos dado a la Corte de Apelación la oportunidad de tomar esa decisión. Yeah, so, the original question I think was, how's Mario doing? Mario's doing well. The interesting thing about Mario, and I don't know if I said this in English. Okay. ¿Lo quieres en español? La primera parte. Ok, Mario está bien. Los que conocen a Mario saben que Mario se mantiene positivo constantemente. Él es una persona de fe. Él tiene su familia que lo apoya mucho. Y sí, él se está manteniendo positivo con la misma sonrisa, ¿verdad? Y la misma personalidad que conocemos. Pero sí, esto le está causando una trauma. Esto le preocupa a un país que él ama y que quiere mucho. Él no sabe cómo sentirse, está teniendo un conflicto de su conciencia y yo creo que cualquier persona que sufre por este tipo de detención por tanto tiempo va a sufrir eso. Pero por lo general, todas las conversaciones que hemos tenido con él, él nos ha declarado y nos dice que está listo por la lucha y quiere seguir luchando porque él sabe que le merece lo que le vamos a ganar. Desafortunadamente, no hay cualquier abogado que te da un estimado de tiempo te está mintiendo. ¿Okay? Lo que tenemos a nuestro favor es las fianzas, las apelaciones de las fianzas se deciden un poquito más rápido, y cuando hay un stay, ¿verdad? Ese amparo, ¿verdad? Esa congelación del orden del juez, esas apelaciones se deciden un poquito más rápido. ¿Okay? Lo bueno es que ya presentamos la petición para desestimar todo, y ya la Corte de Apelación nos mandó el orden pidiéndonos el último escrito legal. Por eso para mí me demuestra que yo creo que la Corte de Apelación ya quiere tomar una decisión. El problema es imposible saber la cantidad de tiempo. La cantidad de tiempo es algo que también vamos a analizar, ¿verdad?, en la decisión en el futuro de presentar una demanda federal. Pero desafortunadamente tenemos que darle a la Corte de Apelación la oportunidad de tomar esa decisión. ¿Yeah?
Tengo una pregunta
Sí.
en español.
Uh-huh.
Y para que mis colegas te conocemos a Mario de 20 años o más, fui la primera periodista que ingresó a la cárcel con mi colega Rafael Navarro en calidad de amigos. Y una de las preocupaciones de Mario Guevara es precisamente la distancia en la que está. Si hay otras cárceles de inmigración o centros de detención, como lo quiere llamar el gobierno federal, ¿por qué Mario está en un centro de detención de casi 6 horas? ¿No se están violando acaso los derechos humanos? ¿Y ustedes como abogados están peleando por esa circunstancia en especial?
Si le están violando los derechos a Mario, mandándolo a Folkestone, le están violando los derechos a los miles y miles y miles y miles y miles de inmigrantes que están detenidos en Folkestone. Folkestone es uno de los centros de detenciones principal de inmigración en el estado de Georgia. Tenemos 2. Casi todas las personas que ya han detenido con inmigración primero van a Atlanta y luego van a Folkestone y van a Stewart. Esto no es nuevo, ¿okay? Esto es algo muy normal. Todos nuestros clientes y todos los clientes, o la mayoría, no todos, porque ahora con la cantidad de gente que están detenidos, casi 60,000 personas detenidas en los Estados Unidos, están buscando alternativas, ¿verdad? Sabemos que Mario lo mandaron un momento a Floyd County, lo mandaron a la prisión federal aquí en el centro, ¿okay? Donde lo extorsionaron, ¿okay? Y tuvimos que yo me tuve que comunicar con una de las encargadas de ICE, una de las abogadas, y dentro de un día lo trasladaron de nuevo a un lugar que a lo mínimo él se sentía un poquito más seguro, ¿okay? Pero sí, yo creo que eso es algo que hemos peleado por años, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué mandan a los inmigrantes a estos centros de detención, a Stewart, a Folkestone? Esto es una decisión del gobierno. Y cada vez que nosotros le preguntamos por qué mandan a alguien a estos sitios, porque son centros de detención de inmigración, y segundo, ellos nunca nos dan razón. Ellos dicen que es por espacio, ¿verdad? Y es una decisión logística del gobierno. Lo bueno es que sí nos dan acceso, le dan a la familia la habilidad y los abogados de visitarlo. Hemos hablado con él por video. La familia lo ha visitado varias veces. Por eso, el acceso, lo que esta experiencia de Mario, es la experiencia desafortunadamente que han tenido millones y millones y millones de inmigrantes que han sido detenidos por ICE. Pero es muy común que él está detenido en Folkestone, porque la mayoría de la gente que detienen en esta región llegan a Folkestone o llegan a Stewart.
¿Ustedes han ido a un centro de detención a hablar personalmente?
No, yo lo hago por video. Y la razón es, con lo sucio que ha jugado el gobierno hasta ahora, ¿okay? No hay ninguna garantía que si yo llego ahí a ese edificio, como los representantes, como otras personas, ¿verdad?, que los van a dejar entrar. Muchos años atrás, bueno, no tantos años atrás, unos grupos de abogados ganaron una demanda, ¿verdad? Y la demanda que ganamos era para hacer visitas por video, VTC, confidencial. Y la razón es por el acceso a abogados. Porque la Corte Federal decidió que no estaban recibiendo el acceso, no estaban recibiendo acceso a los abogados, porque era muy difícil viajar todos los días 6 horas a un centro de detención en Folkestone. Pero lo bueno es que ahora que tenemos acceso a esas visitas por video y que son confidencial, porque era parte del acuerdo en la demanda federal. Nosotros podemos hablar con los clientes y es un proceso mucho más eficiente y podemos hablar con él por más de 1 hora cada visita que tenemos.
cell phone.
You know.
Do we know if they got off the cell phone? Do we know whether or not they gave the device to somebody else? Is there a legal mechanism to fight the transfer of that information?
Yeah, Zach, I think this week is going to file a motion to recover the cell phone because Zach has basically been in contact with just about everybody he knows in the sheriff's department and also at the prosecutor's office, and everybody's saying, we don't see a warrant in the system. So one of two things happened. Some other agency that hasn't contacted us took it, U.S. attorneys, ICE, somebody else has it, or the phone was just plain stolen. So we are in the process of trying to figure out exactly what happened to this phone. I think it's par for the course considering the government's conduct from the beginning of this case. But we're doing this, at least initially, to see if we can get the phone back. But again, if they don't give them the phone back, that's another reason to file a lawsuit in federal court. We'd be suing ICE. But, you know, there's a possibility of adding other defendants to it, maybe the counties that detained him. There's a lot of evidence of, you know, circumstantial evidence, right, of all the things that have happened to him, lying about him from the beginning, not sending him through the normal route of routing him through the Atlanta field office, escorting him directly to these detention centers, sending him to the federal prison where he was essentially extorted, and we had to transfer him out. The fact that in the pleadings, they also continue to misstate the facts of my client's case, the fact that they file a stay for someone who clearly has no criminal history, and that's the first time we've ever seen that, especially a discretional stay like this. There's mounting evidence. The problem is the government will always, you know, they have plausible deniability and say, hey, the things that we've done up to this point, we're allowed to do. So really the big legal question is, when is this case ripe to file the federal lawsuit? We have partners that we're working with because we want to make sure that it's right. The Middle District is not like every other district in the country. We're not talking about California or Seattle. So we need to be very, very careful and cautious about how we draft this. And also, we do feel that we're going to prevail at the Board of Immigration Appeals. And once he's released, it's going to be a little bit easier for us to prepare the next level on this fight, you know, against these entities.
Thank you. Out of respect for everyone's time, we're going to be available for some one-on-one interviews afterwards if there are further questions. I really want to thank all the press for being here today. I want to thank everybody who is assembled in support of Mario Guevara. This is an important case, and we need to keep visibility up to protect our constitutional rights. Thank you very much.